So today, we're going to talk about COSMO because whether you know it or not, COSMO is going to be coming, and it's actually kind of already here. They started rolling this out earlier this year, and as of June, when they released a report, they tested it on 10% of all of the transactions and customers on Amazon.com, just to make sure that this new search engine they were building actually worked. Interestingly enough, the reason why I think that Amazon's definitely going to keep going down this route is they noticed that sales increased by 0.7% on those 10% of the people who actually got all their search recommendations coming from COSMO. And 0.7% when you're at Amazon scale is a really, really big number for them. If you don't know what COSMO is, it's basically their new AI-based system to recommend products to people, how they match up products to customers, which is called Common Sense Knowledge Search. So this means, like, once I heard that COSMO was coming out, they released this white paper in June. What I started doing is just really diving deep into this. And so, what is that guy right there? You guys know what he is? He is a COSMO nut. And so I became like this person, just studied everything I could about COSMO. These are the white papers. I can give you guys all a link to it if you want to. It's got a dozen pages on there. It's got all kinds of these diagrams and charts and everything about what they did, why they did it, how they did it, and then what the final results were. I promise you, you don't need to know all this stuff here. I'm going to show you like everything that I was able to extract out of it that's actually relevant to us, and also going to tell you exactly what you need to do. A lot of people in the space are doing some good work, like making sure that sellers know about COSMO, but no one really knows what to tell people to do. They're like, well, just be aware that your products need to understand their customers. Your pictures need to show your customers using it in common scenarios. I was able to dig into here and kind of figure out, here's the steps that we're going to follow, and I think everyone should follow in order to be ready for COSMO. To do that, I'm going to show you how COSMO was built. I hate it in presentations, like when you just want to get to like, what do I need to do? But for this, I really think everyone needs to understand how this all happened on the back end, how the scientists who did all this actually coded their system and actually went in and determined how they were going to build the system, the results, how they refined it, and then what the end process was. Because it's going to make it a lot clearer why I think we should do what we will be doing at the end of this. So the first thing they did is they came up with a plan, right? They had nowhere to start. They're like, okay, what do we want to do? And they came up with this idea that we need to design something that will identify the intentions behind a customer purchasing a product and using AI to do this. So why are these people buying these products? And so they came up with this query. Just think of like putting this basic query into ChatGPT, Microsoft Bing, whatever it is. This is how scientists think. They wrote this into, this was the exact prompt they started with. Here's your task. Please provide typical explanation for the following search purchase behavior and complete the answer. Then they give you the search query. And so this is where they would pull in all these search queries that customers actually used. Then they gave them the product they actually ended up buying. And then the big question right here for the AI was, what is the product capable of which exactly matched the intention of the search query? And then they started the answer. This isn't the answer. They started it by saying, the query means customers want the product that is capable of one, and this is a little trick using LLMs or AI. If you start the answer and like tell it the format you want it in, it will know that you want it to finish it in the format that you're giving it. And so when they did this to their own version of, it was called COSMO LLM, then it started giving the answers exactly this. It gave them a list. Okay, here's why they bought that product. That customer using the search bought that product. So at the end of the day, it's all that complicated back-end work just to figure out why the heck did a customer buy the product? If you can figure that out, then you can back into everything else you need to in order to give people really good search results when they're looking for products on Amazon. And to do this, they needed vast amounts of data. And luckily, probably other than Google, they have more data than any company out there right now, at least any e-commerce data. If you think about it, they have hundreds of millions of products among all the Amazon domains. They also have hundreds of millions of customers as well. And every one of these things has something about it. Every product has certain attributes about it. Every customer has certain things about them, call them attributes, whatever it is. There's so many combinations as well of how you can combine these things, but it's a large amount of data that actually no one had the ability to process before AI came out the way it was. They also had an estimated 11.5 billion transactions. I used Perplexity right before here to figure out, knowing Amazon's been around since whenever in 2012, where they really got big, but even before then, and knowing their sales growth over the past years, how many sales transactions do you think they had? And it did the entire calculation for me and came out to like 11.49 billion transactions. I would imagine that number's probably fairly accurate, just knowing that it walked through all the analysis. But if you have all that data, how do you actually go ahead and build it and make sure that you can go through and come up with real answers in a real search engine? So they did it by looking for only two things. With all that data, they put it into AI, and they looked at people who search and buy something, and then they looked at people who bought together something. There's a lot of other things they could have looked at, but these are the two most common scenarios on Amazon of people buying products. And the search and buy, which that's kind of like what we all think about usually, it's actually 3 times more relevant than the bought together. And they never knew that before, but now that they did all this analysis, they found out through human review, looking at all the results, that the intention between a product that's matched up to someone buying it is 3 times more relevant than someone just randomly buys stuff. And it makes sense because I think about this past couple of months, my daughter's going back to college. There were orders that the products we bought had nothing to do with each other. I'm buying, cardboard boxes to ship out products in. She's buying decorations for her college apartment. And that's why the frequently bought together don't always match up. It's still relevant, and Amazon's still going to use that, or COSMO is going to still use that when looking for the right products to recommend. But it's the search by that is really the big lever they wanted to pull. During their testing, so as they put in that prompt I showed you earlier, like here's the product, here's the search, tell me why they bought that product. They came up with like 4 different relationships that came out of all of this different testing. That a product is something, so they had to figure out, like the AI needed to know a product is what? It's a leather jacket, it's a football, it's a flashlight. A product is used for doing what? You go camping, for cooking, for cleaning, something like that. A product is capable of, which can be different. So even though there may be a primary use for it, it's also capable of doing other things that people may want to buy these things for. And the end result then was the product was bought because of what? So which one of these or something else was the product bought for? And so these were the 4 relations, is what they called them, when they analyzed all through the data. And now it wasn't just AI doing this. AI was doing the heavy lifting. They put in all the customers, all the products, all the sales transactions that prompt we're talking about, came up with these 4 different relationships that came out of it. But then they actually had people manually going through every single one of these for a while. They went through like tens of thousands and thousands of them. And then once they realized what was accurate and what wasn't, then they refined the whole process, because there's a lot of noise out there. We all see it on ChatGPT. It doesn't always get things right. So they added in this whole human review to make sure that they knew exactly why these people were buying the products based on the search. They looked at things such as, was it plausible? Like, it makes sense that they were to search for a hat and they ended up buying a hat. And was it likely as well? Was that likely the reason they bought that? Or was it something that just randomly came across? But they developed these formulas to make sure that their COSMO AI actually had a much better understanding of everything that it was looking through and coming up with much better reasons why COSMO felt that that purchase was actually made. So after going through all of that noise and cleaning it up and refining the process over and over and over again, they were able to expand that set of relationships, those 4 different relationships, into a much larger list that gave them everything they needed. And it was this list right here. So instead of 4 things, they came up with all these relationships for a product and all these for a customer. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them right now. We will shortly here. But there's basically 12 things they knew they needed to know about a product and 3 things they needed to know about a customer. And if you look into this white paper, they actually give you this chart that says they finally came up with these 15 different relations between every search that was performed on Amazon. And when I got to that point and saw that, like I had this kind of like an aha moment that after this full process of refining COSMO, they know that they were going to, like, this is my defining moment right here, where I had this aha moment. That's me and Socrates over there having a conversation about what we're actually going to use this stuff for. He's got a little grayer beard than me. But this gave me some insight into, like, this is something I can work with. Up until I got to that point in the white papers, and I was using ChatGPT, I was using Perplexity to go in and like explain all these big words I didn't know what they meant, and asking it more questions like, how did they do this? How did they do this? And when I got to this point where they came up with these 15 sets of relations, that's where I had this aha moment, like, I can work with this. This is something that we can actually do, because if their entire training, if COSMO's training was based on COSMO asking itself, after all the human training to make it better, asking yourself what each of these 15 attributes were for every single product and every single customer, all these things up here that you see right there, then Me and Albert Mattenstein over there had this, I had this idea that we can actually build something in order to not game the system, but what if we're actually able to make it easy as possible for Cosmo to know all those things about our product? If we know in the back end, this entire system was trained about answering these 15 questions, why don't we just give it the answers? And that's what this whole idea is based upon now. How do we give those answers to it? And so I went back into the lab. That was my back to the future look right there. I started using AI to help come up with the best way to actually, not game system, but to give Cosmo everything that it needed. Spent a lot of time on ChatGPT, Perplexity. I actually use a couple of ones, Claude's out there, Opus, Anthropic. There's a lot of other ones out there. Sometimes I found things I really didn't like when I dug into AI even more as well. But at the end of the day, it came out where there's a blueprint, I think, that will help us master Cosmo. And I haven't seen anyone go down this route right now. Everyone so far is telling you, make sure your images show how your product should be used. Make sure that your bullets and your copy demonstrate how your product should be used and why a customer might want to buy that product. And that's good because no one really knows. Even this right here, what I'm going to be explaining today, part of this is still theory because we don't know until Cosmo is fully rolled out if it's going to work exactly the way that they said in this white paper. They may change some things. As a matter of fact, I'm certain that we'll be changing some things. But given everything that I've seen inside of here and already early results of using Cosmo myself, going in and asking Rufus questions about my products and competitors' products, seeing where they're digging those answers from, you can do it anytime you're right now. It's very interesting to go and have Rufus ask a question about your products. It will tell you things that you probably didn't even know about your own products and your own customers. But I think this is the blueprint that we should all follow over the next month or so in order to make sure your products are as best and optimized as they possibly can be. And I know this, whatever we do in order to give Cosmo the answers it wants, none of it's going to have a negative side effect. You're really just telling it everything about your products that it already needs to know. We're just not doing it as well as we could. And also digging in deeper into your customers about what they really want out of life, why they're buying your products. This is the way that I think we should do this. So step one is to answer all of Cosmo's questions about your products and your customers. And I'm going to give you something at the end of this where you can walk right through it. You can start doing this with your products as well. And so first, we'll go on the product side of it, then we'll hit the customer side of it as well. But these are basically, what are all the different attributes, those 12 things out of the 15 that Cosmo wants to know about your products. The first one is called the use for function. This is how Amazon and Cosmo have framed all these things. They're used for, they're used in, they're used on, they're capable of. It's basically specific language they had to make very short and concise so their Cosmo LLM model didn't get confused. The longer you make these things, the more confusing, the more creative they get. So they have these 15 different functions out here, just like this, that we're going to be answering. But I'm going to go through them so you know exactly what they're trying to get out of every question here. So first thing is, for every product, you need to know what is it used for. So one could be used for drying your face. If you sell towels or hand towels, they could be used for drying face. Also, it could be used for peeling potatoes. A potato peeler, the function of that is to peel potatoes. And so you'll want to make sure that for every product sell, what is the function of this product? After that, they also can be used for something else. So it's not just used for a function, it can be used for an activity or an event. And Cosmo needs to know what those activities are. One activity could be for walking the dog. Another activity could be for riding a bike. Events are in here as well. So one could be for going to concerts. One could be for at football games as well. So activities and events, you have products that could be used any way possible for there. You want to tell Cosmo that that's how your product can be used and where it can be used at. Next one is what type of audience. Now we're going to have a whole section on just your customer, your ideal customer, but every product also has its own audience attributes. Who uses this? So what's this product used for? So you could have maybe some kids' toys used by a daycare worker. Could be some markers that could be used by daycare workers to let kids write on the wall. You could also have products that are used by patients. It could be the thermometer that a patient might use. It could be the gowns that patients use as well. So you need to know who your products are used for also. You also need to know what your products are capable of. This isn't exactly what they do. This is what is this thing capable of? I really have no idea what it can do, but we know that some things like a tray, it can carry food, but it's capable of holding snacks. Shoes are good for running, but they're capable of providing arch support. And some of these things you'll notice, they blend into each other. Let's face it, how products are used They blend over into each other's areas all the time. But by giving COSMO these very specific things it's looking for, you're going to cover a lot more scenarios than you probably ever thought of for your products as well. Now, I know that a lot of people use like some of our headlamps. They use those for working on their car. Like I always think it was camping, hiking, things like that. But I've had a couple of our customers come back and say, yeah, whenever I'm doing work on the car under the hood, I put on the headlamp. And that way my hands are free, I can look in there. I didn't know that, but that's one of the things that I know that my headlamps are to be tagged as capable of doing now that I know how COSMO is going to be looking for them. Then this is kind of the primary thing. What is this used to do? And so one thing can be used, a hammer can be used to build a fence. Squeegee can be used to clean windows. This will probably be one of the simplest things you'll come up with. The function is like, very similar to this as well, but this will be think of it as an action verb. What are you actually doing with this, primarily when you're using this product? You also have used as. So this is something where products can be used maybe differently than what they're supposed to, maybe in a lot of different ways. So this one could be a watch can be used as a smartwatch as well, not just to tell the time, but it can be used to track all your fitness. And then a light bulb can be used as a light bulb replacement. We think of them as just light bulbs, but actually they replace other things. They have another function. They're replacing something that's broken as well. And so that's another thing you'll want to tell COSMO about. There's something that this is one of those like, what is something? That's very simple. That is a watch, but that is a suit. That is a running shoe. And earlier we told it it's capable of providing arch support, but you need to tell COSMO these things separately, not just assume that it's going to figure all this stuff out. This one is another one, used on. I always think this is like, oh, it's used on, I don't know, my dog's fur, it's used on my skin. This specific one is a time or a season. And so that blanket can be used like on a wintry night. And then umbrellas can be used on rainy days. You need to make sure you're telling COSMO how your products can be used during all types of different events like this. Another one is used in location. This one's used in a kitchen. So we have like this coffee maker is used in a kitchen. That alarm clock is used in a bedroom. By the way, it took me like 30 tries to get a product used in a bedroom that kept coming up with images that it said I couldn't show you. So I don't know, that's what ChatGPT does sometimes. And then another one is used in. This is a weird one as well because it says used in, but you'll see all the examples that when you read through the white paper, it's actually used on. But either way, this is where in or on your body can this product be used. Those are like eardrops right there. Some creams can be used on your skin. You have shampoo for yourself or your dog can be used on dry hair. Again, you need to tell COSMO exactly where your product can be used on. Then use with. This is kind of like what products can go with each other. This is used a lot in the whole frequently bought together. That's why we see these things. This is the coolest coffee maker I've ever seen, by the way. It can not only make a pot of coffee, but shoot it straight out into the cup at the same time as well. If you can't tell, these are all AI generated. I saw that and I'm like, I'm leaving that in. That's cool as hell. And so again, this would be an example. A mug can be used with a coffee maker. A filter can be used with a coffee maker. These hiking boots can be used with warm socks. Maybe the other way around. Maybe the warm socks can be used with a hiking boot. But this is how you get those correlations between products that can be used together. And then the whole use by. So this is similar to the audience, but who's specifically using this product? This product is used by cat owners. This product can be used by professional chefs. Again, similar to the whole audience, but I think this is just more of an action, more direct. They want to know who uses it. And to me, the way I think of this is, well, I'm going to tell COSMO both things. This is the knife that's used by professional chefs all around. And then also somewhere else, I'll tell it that the primary audience for this product is people who love to cook. Maybe even professional chefs or anyone who has a gourmet cooking, degree or something like that. Now, those are the 12 different product relations. And then again, like I said, you're going to get all this. There's only 3 customer relations. And so these are things that you don't really know about yet. But Amazon knows this about your customers. You know some things about it, but Amazon knows a lot more about your customers than you think, probably because they have all their purchasing history. So the first one is like, what are they interested in? I think any of us could look at our purchase history on Amazon and come up with a pretty good idea of the things that we're interested in. So they may have things like herbal medicine. There's people that are definitely interested in that. Someone's interested in outdoor adventures. And if we can think of like our customers, the things they're interested in, and we could tell COSMO on our products what these products are for the type of people who are interested in stuff, it's going to help them recommend the stuff, even if they're not looking for these products. Also, there's this guy is a doctor. This is a pregnant couple over here. This is a college student. Amazon knows what your customers are, and they also know what your customers want to do. based on, again, what they have interacted with and what they bought. This person wants to play tennis, and then that person wants to go rock climbing. So when you look at that, that's like 15 different things we've all gotten about your customers that COSMO is asking the questions for, and that we should all, for every product we have and for our customers, go in and know those answers and come up with a very distinct list of those answers. And most of them will be more than one. You have more than one audience for your product. You have more than one thing that your products are capable of. So you want to make sure you come up with all of those. I wouldn't make it overwhelming, because the more refined it is, the more targeted, the better results will be. But once you gather all those together, the next step then is to give COSMO those answers. Like, how the heck do you give COSMO those answers? And so I switched it around this time. I got the gray beard. This is Maticus over here, kind of having a conversation with me over that. But the way to do this is actually in 5 different areas on your products. The first one is in your copy. And the copy, the way I look at it on Amazon, is 3 places. It is your product title, it is your product bullet points, and it's also your description. Even if you have A+ content, you still have a description, you should still use it. So you would go through all these 15 different attributes, relations about your product, and make sure they are all covered in each one of these. And I would use the terms, this product is used by professional chefs, perfect for going to sporting events. The more you can tell COSMO in its own language, the better the results that you will get off this. Now, you also need to do it in your photos. This is what a lot of people are talking about that I didn't really realize how important this would be until I started reading through, again, all the documentation on COSMO. But there are so many ways that AI is now looking at images, and no longer are the images just things that can help convert. Like, your customer's looking at it, it's a pretty picture, it makes them want to buy the product. They're not just for conversion. AI is going through every one of your pictures, and it's come up with its own story about what that picture is telling them. What does it see? What are those people are doing? What are the products? And then it's matching them up to all these different product attributes and customer attributes as well. So you need to make sure that your images, whether you have 7, 8, or whatever, cover as many of the 15 different relations as possible. And then that way, that's another really strong factor. Of all the changes I see coming down the pipeline, I think the images, having images with very clear stories being told them of exactly who's using your product and how they're using it, is going to have the biggest impact, because Amazon's talking about images a lot right now. Now, also, of course, your A+ content, which is kind of a combination of copy and images. But the beautiful thing about A+ content is it gives you more area than anywhere else on your listing to have copy and to have images. So if you ever think like, gosh, I have so many more pictures I want to show in my 7 or 8 that I can use for the listing, go to your A+ content. You got a dozen or more down there you can add more imagery into. And you can also add a lot more copy in. You can have a bulleted list down there that kind of walks through COSMO's 15 things. This product is used by, it's perfect for, it's capable of, it's been known to do these things. Like, the easiest way to tell AI, let it figure out what you're trying to tell it, is just to tell it exactly the answer to the question that it's asking you. So the more you can put it into its own words, the better the result should be. And then also there's the back-end data as well. I don't have a lot of screenshots here, but we have the typical generic keywords up here. We have special features as well. And then this is my way of trying to give a printout of part of your bulk upload file. There are so many different columns on your upload files. There's several columns for audiences. There's several columns for events. There's several columns for attributes that are custom to your specific category. I would go through all of them. There's probably close to 100, 150 for every different category. Go through all of them and decide, can this attribute about my product that I'm probably not even using be used to answer one of the 15 questions COSMO is asking about my product? It's not going to hurt you. Do I know that it's going to help? Absolutely no. But knowing everything the way they're programming COSMO, and knowing that they're talking specifically about looking and relying more upon the back end, what's inside of Amazon that no customer can see, this makes me think that this is a goldmine of getting more data into your product's attributes and your potential customers as well. Also, the last thing, this one's a little more difficult, is in your user-generated content. But you do have some ways to do this. So think about the videos on your page, right? The AI tools right now can watch videos. They can tell what's being shown in the video. They have a transcript of everything talked about in the video. So if I were recording a video for a product of mine, I would make sure as many of those searches or those attributes were answered by my voice or by one of my customers' voices in the transcript for that video. And I would show it being used in various different scenarios that I know people could use my product in. There's also, of course, your customer reviews. Again, kind of hard to game that right there, but you could always, ask customers like, hey, if you like this feature about my product, I'd love I'd love a review from you. You can maybe kind of game things a little bit that way there. And then there's also the question and answer. It's not as visible anymore. Like there used to be the whole Q&A about your products. You used to get emails like, hey, this customer has a question about your product. Can you help them answer it? And they would have that special link that you can no longer find. And you could, as a manufacturer, answer that question. It's still there. It's still hard to find, but they're kind of moving down this route of asking Rufus instead. But if you do have customers asking questions and you do get those emails, be sure to answer them with as much descriptive detail as possible, answering as many of the 15 different attributes about your product as well. And then, again, this is Rufus, go in there and start asking questions about your product. You'll be really surprised at all the different things, and you'll find out all the competitors that it recommends. I actually did product research using Rufus. I went in and did some research looking for, I forgot what it was, like a cleaning, like a squeegee thing. I was doing an example up here, and I asked it to look at the top products, look at the reviews, and then tell me 3 things that customers were complaining about that didn't exist in any of these products. It took a while, but after a while, it came back and told me 3 unique things that people were looking for that none of the top selling products delivered upon. So if you take that same approach, ask Rufus to go look at your competitors' products, ask it to look at the reviews, and keep asking it, take a few times, what are my competitors' products not doing well that doesn't exist that I could do? It will eventually tell you those things using all of its vast knowledge about your competitors' products as well. So that's like all the different things that you can fill in and answer for COSMO, the 15 different attributes or relations. That's how you can get them also into your product on Amazon. And I put this link together here. This is going to give you a Google document. It's going to force you to make a copy of it. It's going to walk through every single thing that I just went through here, all the 15 relations, exactly how they're phrased. It's going to give you examples of each one so you know exactly the context, because used on, used for is really different for depending on what you're talking about, events, people, times, things like that. I think it would be great for everyone to go through, pull this down, and then see if you can answer the 15 different relations about your top selling product. Doing this and thinking through it is really going to make you realize maybe I do know, maybe I don't know, or maybe it's going to make you think about like something you're missing that you need to get answered about your products. And then if you want to, you can go right to the second part of that as well. It's going to have you go through and give you suggestions. Okay, for titles, we think this is where you really need to have these different relations. Out of the 15, you can't fit them all into your title. You can't fit them all into your bullet points. It's going to give you suggestions as well at the bottom on where it thinks you can best use relations in your title, your bullets, your description, your images, your UGC, and also your A+ content. And so I thought if you want to, and I can help anyone use it if you want to, but use the next 15 minutes to do that.